What is up, Preston Outdoors fans? In today's video, again, we're going to talk about a different tackle tip, and today I want to talk to you about the shaky head. Like I mentioned in last week's video when I was talking about the drop shot, the shaky head is another finesse technique, again, that I have slowly become more accustomed to, and so I'm a real beginner when it comes to the shaky head game. But like when I was down in Texas last fall and then this spring, it was really a key component for me, not only to find fish, but learn how to find it around cover and different baits to use. There's different styles of shaky heads out there. I mean, there are all kinds. If you go on Tackle Warehouse or anything, there's different styles and all kinds of different things. You have to kind of figure it out for yourself. And the two styles that I kind of started off with, just playing around, is your classic kind of your round-headed shaky head with the bait keeper on there as well. And you know, I enjoy these, but it wasn't until I found this the flat-sided head here with the screw lock, and you know, that makes your bait stand up in the air like that, to where your traditional one will kind of just sit depending on the terrain that it's on. I really enjoy the flat-sided heads here, and again, each one has their different time or place, but for me, if I'm going to start off, I'm going to be using the flat-sided one. And I usually run about I got an 1/8 and a 1/4 ounce, the two different weights of the shaky head. Again, a lot of the times, just same with the drop shot, I'm going to be using heavier, you know, jig heads here and heavier drop shot weights, just because that's what I'm more comfortable with right now. So a 1/4, you know, I don't have a 1/2 ounce, but it's something I'd like to try, you know, especially deeper water rock piles and stuff like that. But we'll talk about the baits. I haven't really experimented too much with different kind of baits, but the ones that I have found success with is it's a Zoom speed worm, and I got them in what do they call this? The June bug color, and then also the watermelon seed. And the cool thing about these is I like the that bigger tail there that really flutters through the water, and I've caught fish swimming this, just kind of slow dragging it, and it bounces on the bottom. But this allows, with that uptail, with that head, you know, it really allows, you know, if I just put it on my finger here, it makes that bait, it's not going to float, but you know, that tail will float up, and it makes that bait stand up in the air. Or even with, one of my favorite things to do is, I've done this a little bit with bed fishing as well, is, you know, I'll throw one of my homemade white craws on here, and you throw that, you know, that head up in the air. I just got a white one here to show you, but this is a great, you know, these claws will float up. That's a great defensive position for those craws. Like I said, this thing will float, craws will stick up in the air. So I've done it just slightly last spring, a little bit, again, just playing around, swimming it, and when I'll just drag it along, those claws will slowly go like this, and it'll be bouncing. As soon as I hit like a rock, that the jig head comes in contact with the rock, I'll stop, and then, you know, this thing will sit up like this, and then you'll get bit. But I haven't done it too much in the spring. It's just a really good finesse technique that I'm really starting to grow more confident in. And you can throw, again, same with the drop shot, the shaky head, you can throw all kinds of baits on it. Figure it out for yourself. I've thrown some straight tail worms a little bit around. These craws I really like. You know, just play around with the different kinds of worms and stuff like that. I mean, some of you guys and some of the people I've talked to throw completely different stuff than what I do, but this is just what I'm comfortable with. Again, I got these stored in my Plano tackle box, terminal tackle and stuff, but you can play around with the jig head styles, weights, colors, hooks, the screw locks or non-screw locks, the baits that you throw it with. But this is just something that I would like to talk to you guys about, that I'm slowly gaining more and more confidence in. But it takes time to go out and do these things and to learn. So if there's a bait that you really want to be trying out that you don't have much confidence in, I've done this past summer. I'll put a bait on a rod, and that's the only rod I'll use all day, just to gain confidence in. A lot of times you won't get bites on it right away, but as soon as you start figuring out when you get a bite here, get a bite there, you're going to have that thing in your arsenal. You're going to be ultimately confident with it, just like I am with a drop shot now, like I mentioned last week. you know, that's on the top of my deck. A Shaky Head now is starting to pop up on the top of my deck on the boat to where, you know, I'm really more confident in it. And then there's different situations where people fish them. Again, I haven't fished them much for weed lines and stuff like that. Most of the times what I've been fishing was around bridges when I was in Texas. Bridge pilings off, broken rock, broken cement, stuff like that. Again, you can fish it anywhere. You know, you can hook that thing weedless. You can run around weed lines, everything that you think you can feel confident throwing it. I personally haven't thrown around weed lines, haven't thrown it really around docks or anything. Like I said, I'm just getting used to and getting into the Shaky Head game, as it were. So a lot of times I'm fishing rock, and I really like with this flat-headed jig, if I can find it, the flat-headed jig, because if it's, you know, I'm coming around, this flat head really ticks. When I'm dragging it along, this thing bounces, causing that hook to bounce, and then when I can get up to a rock, I'll hit a rock, then you can kind of just shake it, just like that. Now I listened to a seminar last fall on Mille Lacs Lake on the pros day off. Justin Lucas was talking about a Shaky Head and how he fishes it, and he was using a rounded ball-headed Shaky Head like that one with a straight tail worm. But the tip that I really started using, that instituted, that he talked about, is that he slowly drags, almost like a football jig off deep, slowly drags it, and when he comes up to a stick or a rock or anything, he said some kind of cover or a clump of weeds, he'll hit it, and when he kind of pulls on it, it won't move. Then he'll sit there and shake it like a drop shot, which causes this hook to flex, or not flex, but move the hook, and that bait slowly flutters on the bottom. And I've got a lot of bites doing that. With the bigger Shaky Heads and stuff like that, and I know a lot of people throw it on you can throw it on any setup you want. I know some people that throw it on base casters, they won't throw it on anything else. Spinning rod, some people will only throw it on. For me, I like throwing it on a spinning rod. I think I have a 7-1 Gander Mountain Tournament Series bass rod that I throw it on there. It's just a confidence thing with me. With something lighter like this, in my opinion, I'll throw it on a spinning setup. Like I said last week with the drop shot, some people throw it on the bait casters, but for me, it's a spinning setup. And what I've been running it with is braided line underneath, and then I'll run, same with the drop shot, you know, I'll run a 3 to 4 to 5 foot fluorocarbon leader on there. I use brightly colored line. I think I have that red line. It ends up looking like pink now, but it's a red Power Pro line on there. And that way, if a fish picks it up and swims with it, I can see the line moving, since I'm not have constant contact, you know, with it when I'm kind of shaking that slack. Because when you shake the slack, it allows it to move. But if you shake it on a tight line, that whole jig head will move. And you kind of want it, when you, like Justin Lucas was saying, when it bumps up against something, you don't want it to move from that, because it's kind of like a little deterrent. You shake that slack, it'll kind of make that bait that you're using work. So I like to shake it on slack. If a fish picks it up, you could be shaking slack and he could be coming at you with the bright colored line. I prefer yellow line like I have on my drop shot rod, but they didn't have yellow when I got it. It got the red, so then you can see the fish coming at you. You know, with a spinning rod, it's harder to get a higher gear ratio reel. So again, I'm running the 3000 series reel, bigger spool. You can pick up drag. You can pick up line quicker, especially when the fish is running. And you know, these hooks you have to set the hook a little bit harder than a drop shot. So I turn my drag up a little bit. I think I have on that rod I have 12-pound Power Pro with a 12-pound fluorocarbon leader, and that's kind of what I've been playing around. Both again are connected with the FG knot. So I hope you guys found this video interesting. Next week we'll talk about another more of a springtime. Actually, it's an all-time, you know, all of the seasons kind of year, but it really gets a lot of popularity in the spring. That's a jerkbait, and we'll kind of go over my jerkbait box and stuff next week. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, if you liked the video, hit that like button, leave a comment below for some more questions, and I'll answer them. And thanks for watching Preston Outdoors.